Welcome to Prep Extra Live, an impromptu noon edition talking about the second round of the CIF Southern Section football playoffs. Guys, we're at the perfect time of the year right here. This is where boys become men and, dreams are made or crushed. And we're here to kind of preview it all, predict it all. We had a wacky week one of the playoffs. The first round was, filled with drama, filled with upsets, and maybe this round will be a lot calmer, but nonetheless, we have some exciting matchups to talk about. Just to remind you, Prep Extra Live is brought to you by St. Paul High School, and now we can get right into this. We've all had a few days now to kind of digest what happened in the first round. I don't know if there's any lingering thoughts from you guys or if you've just completely centered your attention now on the second round and what's about to take place.
I prefer to call it the quarterfinals, Aram. This is the Elite Eight right now. This is usually the week when it's Thanksgiving week and all these teams are celebrating because with the state playoffs now and everything pushed back a week, to get to that Thanksgiving holiday practice, you've got to make the semifinals now. So and that's what everyone is gunning for on Friday night.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of a goal that these teams have, is to be able to practice on Thanksgiving. And usually that meant just winning one game, but now it's a little harder. Like you said, you have to win two. And this is kind of the week, I think, where I don't want to say, well, I guess where the playoffs kind of really start. I mean,
you get into some really great matchups. So we're going to talk about them today. We're going to go over all of the brackets that include teams from our area. I mean, the Central Division is great. The Mid-Valley Division. We got Bishop Amat still alive in the Pat 5 in the second round, something we haven't been able to say for about 4 or 5 years. And Aram, you want to start right there?
Yeah, that's where we should start, I think, is with Bishop Amat up at the top. Things are going to get increasingly more difficult for the Lancers on Friday night. But before we can get to Friday night, we have some drama going through that program right now. And that's who's going to be the starting quarterback on Friday night. And right now, that's, I guess, what's being decided this week at Amat practice. Freddie, I'm sure a lot of people saw this. Damian Garcia maybe made a little bit of a mistake, tweeted out his doctor's note showing that he's cleared for full contact. And that he's ready to go now. So there's no more saying, well, he's not quite cleared. He's still sore. He's there. And then you have the hot hand, Ryder Ruiz, who's playing the Frank Reich role, if you will, Stevie, to give you a little throwback as being the backup quarterback that's come in and kicked butt. But just remember, back in the Cowboys' heyday, people thought Steve Berline should start ahead of Troy Aikman. So that's an interesting dilemma. But nonetheless, Here's the problem for the coaching staff. Do you go, and the fans, do you go with the hot hand Ryder Ruiz, who's looked better and better every week, or do you go back to your starter, Damian Garcia? Because, Freddie, there's a reason why he was your starter originally.
And getting back to Damian Garcia, that tweet that he posted Saturday morning, it's no longer on his timeline. He's taken it down. I'm sure the coaches didn't like him tweeting that.
I wonder how that happened.
Well, it was an interesting tweet because that Ryder Ruiz came off, he had a 400-yard game, a 400-yard, a great game Friday night. The week before, he threw for 300 yards. So, I don't know if in Damian Garcia's mind, he's been itchy to get back. And he didn't, it didn't take him long. Saturday morning, he's posting the doctor's note like, hey, I'm ready to go. And he's letting everybody know. It's a extremely difficult decisions for the coaches this week. And look, I'm not going to try to Saturday morning quarterback these guys. This is going to be the coach's decision. I think you can make arguments either way that Ryder Ruiz should be starting because he's a hot hand. You can make an argument that Damian Garcia should be starting because maybe he's a little bit more mobile. Maybe he's a little bit better runner. And there was a reason that he was the starting quarterback from the beginning. There's a reason that he won the job out. And do you lose it to an injury when you're healthy? I mean, they're all difficult questions. But look, this is on the coaching staff. I'm not going to come back here Friday night, whether they win or lose, and second guess this decision because it's you're not going to if they win the game, it's a great decision. If they lose, you get second guess. That's not fair. The coaches are the only ones in practice this week who get to watch both these kids, who get to watch and see where they're at. And if they decide that Damian Garcia is the guy they got to go with, he's looked good in practice, then go with him. If they decide to go with Ryder Ruiz because he's been the hot hand and maybe Damian looks a little rusty, then go with Ryder Ruiz. And I think Aram talked about that. There could be a situation where maybe Ryder Ruiz starts and he's on a short leash. I don't know. But what I do know is they have two very capable quarterbacks going against JSerra on Friday night.
In my day, I remember years back.
This is your day.
Yeah.
No, but I just remember
1975.
Yes.
No, this is your day.
1975.
You're here now. This is your day.
When Ron Jaworski was the backup and he played
Jaws, everybody.
he played like 3 or 4 straight games over James Harris, who was injured, and Chuck Knox in the championship game went with his starter Harris, who struggled, and then it was too late. That's the decision that coaches have to make.
Yeah.
And
they've got to do it against one of the best teams in the country, the second-ranked team in the state.
Yeah.
You know, I've been this past week. I've been kind of looking at JSerra. I watched their highlights from the Santa Margarita game earlier in the season. I watched this one.
You're getting
they're good, but beatable.
Right. You're getting ahead of yourself now, Fred, because just because you guys don't want to say who should be starting at quarterback
Go ahead, Aaron.
doesn't mean that I don't want to say it. And to me, this is a very clear, obvious decision. The starting quarterback this week should be Ryder Ruiz. And the reason is because of this. This is the playoffs. It's win or go home. You don't have any time to waste. You can't give Damian Garcia a half or a quarter to get back into varsity shape. You can't or up to varsity speed, which he's going to need. I mean, he hasn't played in what, 3-4 weeks? You know, they had the bye week in there as well. If he's rusty at all, you risk falling behind in this game and then playing from behind. You have to go with the hot hand at this point of the season. If this was week 3, maybe I would think different. But this, to me, is a pretty obvious call. You start Ryder Ruiz in this game. And I think also because, you know, sometimes a backup QB can be a little fragile, you tell Ryder before the game, the only way you're coming out, buddy, is that if you get hurt. We're not going to pull you if you throw an interception in the first quarter. We're not going to, you know, pull you if you make a couple bad reads or overshoot Vaughns if that's possible. We're not going to do that. We're going to go the hot hand.
You don't have that discussion with a quarterback in a playoff game. There's no coach. There's no coach that's going to sit there and tell him you're not going to get pulled if you make a mistake. You're not going to get pulled if you do that. They're going to put in the guy that they think is the most capable in that situation in the moment. If Ryder's struggling, you better believe they're going to bring in Damian Garcia. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why you can really argue Damian Garcia, and that's because he gives you a dimension maybe that Ryder doesn't have, and that's he can run the ball. He can get out of the pocket, and he can confuse defenses, and he really keeps them on their toes. I mean, he's a guy who can give you that extra 8, 9, 10 yards, where Ryder's more of a pocket passer. Ryder's more hitting guys on slants. And I think that when you look at Damian Garcia, you know, these guys aren't winning the games with their arms. They're making simple passes, and the receivers are doing the rest. So I don't think they have to be spectacular. I don't think it has to be hero ball from the quarterbacks. But I do think Damian Garcia gives you that added dimension of a guy who can take off and get you a first down with his legs, where maybe we haven't seen that from Ryder yet.
You run the risk. If you start Damian Garcia in this game, you run the risk that he's not varsity speed yet, and he's rusty. And if you start off down 14-0, Fred, no, that's not what practice is for. You can't emulate a game. So
you can't simulate it.
Simulate a game. You cannot start off down 14-0 on the road at Santa Margarita, at JSerra, and expect to come back. That's why you go with the hot hand, and you do tell Ryder Ruiz, look, man, you know, right now Ryder's been the QB, and he hasn't had to worry about screw up and Damian's coming back in because Damian hasn't been available. And knowing that he's got a little bit of that room to play with has probably helped him. You know, if he goes into this game thinking, man, one screw up and Damian's warming up, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's why I do think you do tell him, hey, look, you're our guy this game. We're sticking with you through thick and thin, and that's it. The problem is here too, Freddie. If you start Damian Garcia and he has an interception or he's rusty or something early, then all of a sudden all those Amat fans sitting very close behind the bench start saying, oh, man, put in Damian. And the Damian Garcia supporters, and there's lots of them, family-wise and friends-wise, they start riding you too. And now the season was blown because you didn't start Damian.
And what we don't know, defend your argument, Aram, one thing about a rib injury or he's recovering from a rib fracture, that, you go into that next game, that you're waiting for that first hit. I mean, that injury is still going to be on his mind. I mean, you can't get away from that. I've had a rib fracture. When you feel like you're healthy, your mind, your mind still may not be there. I mean, is he gonna buckle a little bit when that first guy comes to take a hit? You don't have those fears with Ryder because he's injury free right now. But there is, is he going to be able to play the way he played before he left? having come off a rib fracture. That part I don't know.
Damian, right.
Damian.
Yeah.
Well, if
Coaches
you
are
don't
gonna
know,
have to
then
have-
you start
well,
Ryder.
That's why I
Yeah.
said I don't. Oh, I'm not at practice this week. That's a decision coaches are going to have to make. If they decide to go with Damian Garcia on Friday, I would imagine it's because he had a great week of practice and they have no concerns whatsoever with his injury. That would be the only way you start him.
Here's the other thing that I thought about yesterday, and I hate to think along these lines, but I'm sorry, the gambler in me does this, okay? Just like Mississippi State had the ball back against Bama with 3 minutes left and down 2 touchdowns. They didn't care about scoring 2 touchdowns, Fred. They cared about scoring 1 touchdown because they knew they're going to lose the game, and 25-20 looks a lot better to the committee than 25-13. This is the same thing. Do you coach and make this decision looking down the road saying, if we don't start Damian, is he our quarterback? Is he even in the
You're looking at
school
next year.
Yeah.
Is he even in the school next year if we don't start him tonight? Are we saying by starting Ryder that Ryder is the QB of the future because they're both juniors? Ryder is the QB of the future, and that's a sign for Damian, hey, because both of them are good enough to start just about anywhere that we cover. That's a fact. I mean, you see the way both kids are playing right now. These are not 2 backups, and I can't imagine Haggerty being a Greg Gano in 2003 and starting 1-1, letting one play a half and the other play the other half. That's not going to work out. They're both starting QB quality guys in the Pac-5. Do you say, hey, if we don't start Damian, there's a good chance he's not in the program come next fall?
No, absolutely not. I don't even think it comes under consideration for Friday's game.
Yeah, but
No, I don't think the coaches are.
He's
thinking
our
that way.
long-term guy.
I don't think coaches are thinking.
Yeah, but it
can
could go the other way. If you don't start Ryder, then he's probably thinking I'm going somewhere else.
Well,
That's true.
Ryder went in. No, Ryder's not going anywhere else. I mean,
You don't know that.
Our Bishop Amat through and through.
Right, and there's a guy named
Mark.
Mark Paredes over at Damian.
Yeah.
And there's a guy named Nieto coaching there. And guess who Ryder's dad is?
Ruiz.
Rudy Ruiz is friends with tons of guys. Rudy's friends with Nieto. Rudy's
You think
friends
really
with
be at
Merrick
Damian next
Hemingway.
year? Something happen?
You never know. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. I mean, I
It's
think
all
a lot
speculation.
factors into this decision because both guys are that good.
Well,
And both guys need to be a starter somewhere next year, you would think. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to this. It's an interesting storyline, and we can get right into the predictions for this game. This situation at quarterback, to me, makes this a very simple thing for JSerra. All you got to do is send the house at whoever's at quarterback and and say, you know what? If they're going to beat us with one-on-one coverage on the outside, that's fine. But I'm going to gamble that I can rattle either one of these 2 guys. You know, Ryder's looked nice, but he hasn't looked nice against a team like JSerra. Damian is a fantastic quarterback, but he's going to be rusty. And is he going to be protecting himself? Is he going to be trying to avoid contact when he's in there? If I'm JSerra, this is real simple. I send the house on every play. I put 8 guys in the box. I take away Sweet, and if they don't run, I'm sending the house anyways, and I'm going to take down the quarterback.
Yeah.
And if this kid is good enough to throw the ball out there and get it to a Vaughns, which we all know Vaughns in one-on-one coverage or Sydney in one-on-one coverage.
Arcanado, all
Right.
of them.
Yeah.
We all know they can make big plays if the ball can get there. But this is real simple for JSerra. You pressure the hell out of the Amat quarterback, and you make that kid beat you. Because if you're going to try and make Sydney beat you or Vaughns beat you or Sweet beat you, and you're okay with that, you're going to lose the game. If you make it so the QB beats you on the road in your place, you got a better chance of winning. And that's why I'm picking JSerra. This is a close game, but I think JSerra wins this game because I think Amat is shaky in the first half. If they're not shaky in the first half, then Amat's going to win the game. But I think there's a good chance no matter what they do QB-wise, they're going to be shaky in the first half. That's why I'm taking JSerra. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I started from the beginning of the playoffs taking Bishop Amat, and the situation we're in now with quarterbacks, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm still taking them. I think Bishop Amat's defense has been nails now for about 5 or 6 weeks. Eric's talking about pressuring the quarterback. I'm really not concerned about that because I think that who's ever at quarterback, they can get the ball out pretty quick to the receivers and they can go to work. This isn't a team that's taken a lot of sacks this year. Last year, Bishop Amat, that was a team that took a lot of sacks. They held on to the ball too much. These quarterbacks, both of them, don't do that. They get the ball out of their hand really quick. If something's not there, they get it to one of their 3 receivers, and all of them are capable of doing something out of nothing. And like I said, I watched a little bit of JSerra this past week.
Yeah, what'd you watch?
I watched their tape against Santa Margarita.
Yeah, then you
watched
should
their
have
tape
seen something
against
there.
last week. Well,
What'd you see?
I watched Santa Margarita have them on the ropes, and they really had to pull that game out in the 4th quarter.
Right.
That was a game they played. Yeah.
I'm not sure you watched
that was a game that was a 1 touchdown game.
What you saw was Santa Margarita go up 14-0, and from there JSerra outscored them 35-7.
Okay, but they went down.
That's what you saw. Yeah, they went down
Yeah.
14, but they
Same
had a
Santa
30,
Margarita team that Crespi blew out this week.
right,
this
but
past
they
week.
had a 35-7 run on them, and that's the same Santa Margarita team that I don't know somehow
Yeah.
beat Bishop Amat in week 0.
I'm just saying this
So
is
I
all
don't
new
think
to-
you
this is
saw
all-
that game the way it really was.
Okay.
That game against
Fine. I'm
for
still pretty
JSerra.
confident. The way they've been playing, I just feel like
These QB things don't matter to you. They don't worry you. The step up and because this is the toughest team they've played since Sarah.
no, I think regardless of who's in there, I think they've both kind of shown that they're capable. I really don't think this team is quarterback dependent like you think. I think they're receiver dependent. I think they're defense
If
dependent.
you're receiver dependent, you're quarterback
Well,
dependent.
but like I said, they don't throw hero passes. They're really simple passes, and their receivers do the work. And it's a lot of it is based on timing. These guys have been sharp. I have full confidence that who's ever going to start on Friday, they're going to give it a good effort, and I think they can get it done.
Okay, so
I think
Freddie's
they've been
got
waiting for
Amat.
this.
I've got
I've
Bishop Pomona in a close game. I like the way they have been playing, these last 5 or 6 weeks, and like you said, the best scheme for JSerra to run is to blitz the quarterback, but these quarterbacks use their tight ends as well, and that's another reason to go with Ryder, and the fact that he's been up to that game speed and can find these receivers quickly, while a guy who hasn't been playing might not be able to.
Yeah.
But I just still like the way Amat's been playing.
And that game will be Friday night at Saddleback College at 7:30 p.m.
Right, and Freddie will be there, so follow him. He does basically a play-by-play on Twitter, so you're not going to miss anything by following him. And you all probably know his handle, but anyways, it's at SGVN Sports. Be following that if you can't make it down for the game. There's no other way you're going to be able to see it. I can tell you that right now. All right, anyways, I thought I'd just throw it in. Anyways, let's move on to the Central Division. 7 of the final 8 teams are local to us as far as teams that we cover with the San Gabriel Valley Tribune and the Pasadena Star News. What an outstanding situation this year. I mean, the odds are we're going to get a local versus local matchup, but looking at all of these quarterfinal games, you don't know who these locals are going to be because every one of these games, I wouldn't be surprised if the underdog won, and I wouldn't be surprised if the favorite won easy. I do know this, Freddie. I can tell you who the favorite is in each of these games.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking there when I looked at this on Friday night and on my way home, I thought this was the best area quarterfinal bracket that we've ever had. We've had the Mid-Valley Division where we've had situations 7 of 8, but it's it's included the lower level, I would say, public schools in our area. It's not like this. These are the best public school football teams that the San Gabriel Valley, Pasadena covers. Not Pasadena, I should say, but San Gabriel Valley and the Tribune.
Yeah.
These are great teams. I mean, Los Altos against Monrovia, West Covina, Bonita, Charter Oak, San Marino. I mean, just think of those three games. You don't get games like that in the playoffs, or at least we haven't that I can remember. I mean, where do you want to start? In Glendora at Colony?
Yeah, start at the top. Glendora at Colony. The news is this week, and I don't know if this is just posturing or whatever, that there's an outside chance that Matt Fink can play. He's being considered a game-time decision. I guess his ankle this week compared to last week is a lot better. So there's a chance he could play against Colony, and Colony is a team that lost its starting quarterback, but its replacement, I believe the kid's name is Johnson, has been very, very sharp. He was good in, obviously it was La Cañada, but he was good in relief in that game and even before that. I don't know. I mean, I know Glendora won last week over Summit, but that without Fink, I don't know that they can win in the second round against Colony without Fink again.
My sources are telling me that they believe Matt Fink is going to play on Friday.
Oof! All right.
My sources are telling me
big.
that it's a little sore, but it's good enough for him to go on. That they don't think he's going to risk really any further injury. That it's not as bad as they initially thought. He's healed up pretty quick. They think he's going to be ready to go. And look, this is a team right now with a big chip on their shoulder because everyone's telling them they can't win without Matt Fink, and they won last week in their first game. I'm with you, Aram. I think they absolutely have to have him in a game like this against a team like Colony that just smack La Cañada 48-0. I mean, there's no way around it, with or without their starting quarterback. From what I've heard, Colony has a pretty good backup. Yeah. They've got a great defense, maybe the best in the division. This is also a team that owned West Covina earlier in the year. So you're going to need Matt Fink to have a chance to win this game on Friday night. And I think even if he's 75% healthy, that gives Glendora a much better chance than not having him.
Oh, yeah, well, I agree.
Yeah.
Stevie, you have any early thoughts on this one?
I just kind of echo your guys' thoughts. I mean, I think Glendora needs Matt Fink to win this game. I mean, the way Colony is played, and like Fred said, they beat West Covina pretty good earlier. They've been one of the top teams in the division, along with Glendora. But I think Fink just makes that much of a difference for that team.
Fink has, the arm, to certainly do damage, but does he have the receivers to do damage? That's the question mark. He's done a lot of his best stuff this year with his feet. If those feet, specifically one ankle, isn't ready to go or isn't 100%, he's going to have to win with his arm this week. I don't know. He at this point, with him questionable to start, even though Freddie's getting a push on him that he's going to start, but still that thing's going to be a little sore. I don't know how you pick Glendora in this matchup unless you can guarantee me, and you can't, that Fink's going to be healthy, and if he is out there, that he's going to be able to run around.
I'm picking Glendora with the presumption that I think he's going to play.
Right.
This team has a big chip on their shoulder. I think they went into this year in this division believing that they can win a CIF title, and I think they're going to survive an extremely close game at Colony on Friday night.
Okay, Stevie.
Well, unless Mr. Fink is like Mr. Rodney Pete of years ago, I'm picking Colony in this game.
Okay.
I just can't see him being 100% healthy and the way Colony is playing.
That's two Colonies. I have Colony as well, and Freddie's got Glendora. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Tartans can take care of business and get themselves in the semis, because then you'd have an even healthier Matt Fink, and at that point you might become the favorite again to win the whole division. And at that point you may have a Glendora Charter Oak matchup, which brings us to the next quarterfinal game, and this is the game that's getting all the blog attention right now. And I never would have thought this would have happened. Charter Oak at San Marino. San Marino, I mean, what can you say about them? Just another outstanding season, an outstanding offense. And guys, that offense has gotten so good that a lot of people are convinced, a lot of people on the west side are convinced that they can do their thing against a speedy, athletic defense that Charter Oak has, at least on the outsides and deep in the secondary, and be in this game and maybe even win it. That's how good things have gotten for this team. And they're, according to the blogs, they're saying San Marino receiver JP Shofi, who's a very good athlete, plays baseball as well on their fantastic baseball team, is just as good as any guys at Amat. Just as good as any guys at Amat, and Amat's 3 receivers.
I'm sure all those San Marino guys have been watching Amat all year.
And will soon enough have all the offers that, those
it's easy to
Amat
say
guys
that.
have.
It's easy to say that when you're in the Rio Hondo League. Go do that in the Pac-5.
Right, but supposedly he's played in these body by tray things, and he's been fantastic. And he has been. He's been great, and so is the junior quarterback Carson Glazer. I just don't know if they're going to run by Charter Oaks guys, and I also don't know if there's ever a point in this game where San Marino's defense makes a stop against Charter Oaks' offense. And for me, that means that San Marino at some point they're trying to shoot it out with Charter Oak, but if they miss a shot or two, then you start to lose contact and Charter Oak pulls away. I thought this was going to be an easy win for Charter Oak, but the more I read what people are saying, I'm starting to think that San Marino has a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I think the turning point for Charter Oak was, beating West Covina. They haven't really, looked back since that game. I mean, they've been on a little bit of a roll. I mean, you look at beating Colton 40-0 last week. It seems like their defense is playing a lot better. They're scoring a lot of points. Brown is throwing the ball all over the place. I haven't seen San Marino's this year, so just looking at scores, it's a difficult one because they're playing well right now. I just have to believe. I mean, I've seen Charter Oak enough in playoffs when they've been in these divisions, and I've always seen them get it done when they've been put in situations like this. So I'm going with Charter Oak to move on.
Yeah, it's like Aram said. The key to this game is going to be on the defensive end. I mean, over the last 2-3 years, San Marino has scored points with anyone.
They've given up a lot though too.
Yeah, that's been their Achilles heel. When they're against a quality opponent, and obviously Charter Oak is quality.
And I would bet you San Marino hasn't placed a quarterback like this.
No, but I mean, whenever they face a quality opponent, Charter Oak is as quality as you're going to get. They've had trouble just stopping teams, and that's what's going to come down to. And like Aram said, it's going to. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think Charter Oak is just going to be able to score more than San Marino will be able to keep up with.
Here's the thing when it comes to Charter Oak this season. If you're going to beat them, their weakness is they're not very big. I'm sure they're a little physical, but they're not very big. They can be had at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. But is San Marino the team that's going to exploit that the way a Los Altos did, the way a Glendora did, at least, late in the game? Are they that kind of team that can exploit that? Because even West Covina couldn't do it, and West Covina is as physical as anybody gets. So you can see Charter Oak starting to make up for its lack of size, because all the other ingredients that a good Charter Oak team has are there. The QB's there. Camden Brown's been phenomenal. If people aren't watching, Zion Eccles is as good of a running back as you're going to find in the area, if not the best. And the receivers are all fantastic too. All the speed guys, all those elements are all there. San Marino, the question is, are you good enough to throw them around at the line of scrimmage and give them problems where they've had it this year? I don't think so. I think this game's probably even, if not a Charter Oak advantage at the line of scrimmage. And then therefore that means give me the better overall top to bottom skill guys in this setting. And that means I think a Charter Oak game where they pull away. Now the bottom part of the bracket, Bonita, the team that upset Kaiser last week.
Didn't just upset them.
Didn't just upset them. They waxed them. They're taking on West Covina. Bonita's going to host this game. This is a rematch of the 2010 Southeast Division Championship. That was a thriller over at Walnut High School. Now, granted, the teams have played since then because they're in the same league. So the staffs know each other pretty well. The players even know each other because all they got to do is look back to last year.
That was a championship game that Bonita should have won too. I don't know if you remember.
I remember. I don't think they should have won.
Late in the game on West Covina's drive, no, they threw a pick. The Bonita guy, I don't want to name him. He had the ball in his hands. All he had to do was cradle it, and they win the game. It's over. He dropped it. West Covina goes in and wins a touchdown. That's a hard one to get over for some of the alumni, anyone who was involved in that team. I've never seen a team so excited, and another team. The pain that Bonita went through in that game, those players, that was hard to watch their faces.
So totally different dynamic this year. Neither team is to those levels this year. And neither team, even though you look at the Bonita score last week, it looks flashy. Neither team is overly flashy. They have good running backs. They want to establish that. With Bonita, it's Angel Verdugo. With West Covina, it seems like it's a different guy every week depending on who's healthy. And they're both probably going to be physical enough. I don't know. I think this game's a total coin flip. I know Bonita's an at-large, but I mean, these are two local teams. There's not a vast talent gap. To me, this is a really grinding slugfest that anyone could win at the end. I just lean West Covina a little bit in this spot.
Well, here's the problem with picking these divisions before the playoffs start is after the first week, sometimes you want to change your mind. And I had West Covina going all the way to the finals, and I'm going to own that. I owned it in the blog this week when I made some picks.
But are you nervous about this?
If you're asking me what my gut is right now after the way Bonita waxed Kaiser, and look, West Covina, that loss to Charter Oak, just the 18-15 win over Chaffee. Something's not there. Something's not as playoff ready as I thought they were going to be. Won't be surprised in the least bit if Bonita wins this. And my gut is telling me, even though I picked Bonita on the blogs, I'm just telling you, things change sometimes after you watch a week one game. My gut is telling me Bonita's going to win this game.
So pick them in our contest.
But I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it because
pick them in the trips can pick them.
Yeah, I know. I should have.
Well, you still
I'm trying to own it. I'm trying to own it.
It's not kickoff, Freddie. Get back in line at the sports book and change your bet.
Maybe I will. Until Friday.
I think what you're talking about that's lacking for West Covina is lack of dynamic offensive playmakers on offense. They are a grinder team. They're not going to score points in clumps. But there's no reason why they can't grind on Bonita a little bit. Stevie, who you got?
I've got. That's a tough one, but I think I'm going to stick with West Covina. The thing about Bonita, and they obviously had a great win, but I'm not sure they can put something like that back to back, which they've had a problem with.
For the thing I mentioned in the blogs, they haven't done that this year. They've had a great game and then a stinker. Great game and a stinker.
Yeah, I mean,
and then a couple of stinkers in a great game.
Yeah, they're like that golfer who will birdie one hole and then have a 5 or 6 on the next, and I'm just not. I'm just not.
If there's any time to put back-to-back games, it's right now. I'm sure Coach Madrano is reminding them that after every good game, you've had a stinker. So
I think you'll get a good effort out of them this week.
Yeah.
They know the stakes, obviously.
So you know what, Aram? I am going to change it on the blog.
Okay.
I am going to put Bonita. Yeah.
You can't change your pick.
Why? I haven't played yet. Aram, can I change?
Of course he can.
If I'm in Vegas, Aram, can I pull my ticket back and make a new bet?
Right up until kickoff.
Yeah.
Yes, you totally can. Come on, Steve.
I don't.
What is this, man?
I'm gonna go with my
This
gut.
isn't marriage. You're not locked into anything.
Okay.
Okay. So
last game, Los Altos.
Final game. Yeah, this is a rematch of a game that took place earlier this year. A thriller. Los Altos went to Monrovia, controlled the game for most of the game, but when they left, it was with a 27-25 loss to the Wildcats. The Wildcats again needed dramatics last week just to get out of the first round. They go to overtime after tying up, trailing in the fourth quarter, then tying up Don Lugo late. They win 26-20. Now they're at home. They're on the road playing a Los Altos team that gave them everything they could handle. And guys, I don't know why this game isn't going to be another close one, especially watching the way Los Altos played last week. I mean, they are who they are, and that puts them in a lot of games.
Yeah. Well, all year Los Altos has been a team in a lot. They were in the game with Glendora. They were in a game with San Dimas. A lot of good teams they've been in the game with, and they've lost a lot of close ones. Even when they got in the league, they lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost, and then they come back and they beat some teams that you expected them to beat. You look last week beating Kaiser, best win of the season. We've been talking about. I've been saying this for 3 years.
Los Altos beat South Hills.
I got the wrong game. Here's what I'm gonna say about the Los Altos Monrovia game. If that field is wet and muddy on Friday night, which I think it might be, here's what I was telling. There's a Monrovia parent here who works here, and I was telling her the thing about what's gonna be difficult for Monrovia is high school football teams don't play in a lot of grass fields.
Right.
They don't play in a lot of dirt fields like they do at Los Altos, and that's a pretty bad field. And if they're smart, Monrovia is a team that's got a lot of speedy guys. I am not going to be surprised in the least bit if someone decides to water the grass on Thursday night and leave that water on an extra couple hours, and you show up there Friday and it's a little damp.
They're going to pull the Giants on Maury Wills.
The reason, I'm going to go with Monrovia in this game, but it's another one where I'm starting to have a gut feeling that maybe Los Altos can pull it out. I think them playing at home is going to be a huge, huge advantage to them playing on that field because it's a horrible field. It's the worst field probably in the southern section. And I think it could cause Monrovia problems. Not only that, when I was there for that game against Glendora, walking through that grass, I really could put my hand in, and it was up to my wrist. I mean, it's thick. It takes away the speed, and that's what Los Altos wants. They want to ground and pound you. So this may not, this is going to be a lot different game than maybe had it been at Monrovia or on a turf field. For that reason, I won't be surprised if Los Altos beats them, but I think that Monrovia last week got a scare, and I think they're going to do enough to get by this week.
If you watch the weather report, Jackie Johnson doing her thing or Olga Spina or whoever, you'll notice on the Doppler radar is always that one little spot over Hacienda Heights. That's that rain cloud that forms just in time for a Los Altos home game that soaks the field when a speedy team's coming to town. Doesn't matter what else is happening around SoCal. That thing always seems to open up. And you can bet, Freddie, that field's going to be slow. It ain't going to be fast. You can bet that. And Monrovia
someone's going to tell us on Friday afternoon that the sprinkler system broke, that the timer went off.
The guy took a long lunch.
That it wasn't our fault. That someone broke in the middle of the night and set that thing off. We apologize. We're going to play the game.
The pool accidentally drained into the field. Stevie, who do you got?
I've got Los Altos in a close game.
So you're a traditional guy. That's your thing.
Yeah, I mean, the way they've played all year, like you said, they've been in a lot of close games. They want to cut the clock in half in this game, and I think they'll be able to do that. And that I'm not sure of Monrovia now after playing Don Lugo in a game that they were 30 seconds away from losing.
Well, let's go through our final four real quick.
Well, wait a second. I have made my pick, Freddie, and that's what everyone's waiting for. Give me M-Town in this game. I think they got their wake-up call last week, and they still have that ability to jump on a Los Altos. And if they're the team that gets out in front this time, and Los Altos has to throw from behind, get out of its comfort zone, then Monrovia is going to look.
They got so lucky.
They're going to be coming.
So lucky.
They're going to be coming from behind, and they just don't do that very well. And I think Monrovia has a chance to jump on them. I think this could be a very, very good game, though. A very interesting game. But give me Monrovia.
Monrovia's extremely lucky they have a field goal kicker. Most high school teams don't have that. You don't have that guy. They're watching the playoffs this week.
All right.
I mean, unbelievable. So I got Monrovia against Bonita in the semifinals and Glendora against Charter Oak.
Right. I mean, obviously, that'd be a dream for the area, but we'll see what happens. So you have Monrovia winning the game, though?
I have Monrovia winning.
Okay. After all that, you have Monrovia. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Southeast Division, which has been conveniently cleared out for those of us with SGVN purposes. All our local teams, boy, and there were a lot of them. They're basically all gone, and 2 of them are left, and one of them is going to cancel out this week because St. Francis is going to Lucerna to take on the defending division champions
at Cal High.
At Cal High.
Talking about bad fields.
Yeah, and I've already gotten the St. Francis parents texting me like, do they have to play at Cal High? Like, would Cal High, Aram, do you think they'd consider moving the game? And I'm like, if they didn't move it for that CIF championship game, if they were hell-bent against doing that and had to have it at their place, what makes you think they're going to move it for you guys? Well, because we bring 4,000 fans. Well, that's not going to matter. All I can suggest to you, unless you want to park in Santa Fe Springs with your 4,000 fans, get there early, park on the street, because it's rough over there.
We said Los Altos was the worst field in the southern section, while Cal High may be number 2.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's that bad. The grass is dead. The stands are archaic.
Remember that CIF
There's only one
game?
toilet.
It was all yellow. It was completely yellow grass and dirt.
Right. Yeah, I remember. My allergies remember. Okay, so I think I put Clarendon back in business with that. Okay, so listen. Here's the situation. St. Francis is without starting quarterback Jeremiah Martin. Now, there's been a lot of talk yesterday. You know, I got Sondheimer tweeting that, you know, the guy's done. I got Jim Bonds 10 minutes before Sondheimer tweets that, telling me, you know, we're hoping to have him back. You know, we'll see what happens. It's the collarbone on the non-throwing shoulder. I got Freddie calling me saying, what's the deal with this? Sondheimer says he's gone. Basically, you know, they confirmed that he has a break, okay? And he's not going to play this week. I don't know how they're ever going to get him cleared with a broken collarbone at all for the rest of the postseason with a doctor. What doctor is going to clear him?
Posturing. They're just saying that, hoping that Lucerna is
and Lucerna's not buying that. They're going to be preparing for a kid that they'll have very little film on, and that's Miles Bryant, the Monrovia transfer, who's going to step in for Martin. And St. Francis has to hope that the quarterback whisperer, Jim Bonds, can get another guy ready and turn, you know, another prospect into a stud. And he's got something to work with in Bryant because Bryant's a very heady kid. He's the younger brother of Mason Bryant, who kicked butt for Monrovia during their CIF championship years, and now he's playing in the Ivy League. And this kid has the pedigree. The question is, you know, can he jump right into a quarterfinal game on the road and lead this team?
Yeah, I've seen him in mop-up duty a couple times. And he's looked good. He's looked good, but that's against second and third string guys. And there's not a lot of pressure. But if anyone could do it within this short of time, it's Coach Bond. And I'm sure he's been working with him all year. And he's been
running the scout team offense, which Bonds told me, which he said is a little bit of a concern because the scout team offense is running the opponent's offense that week and not St. Francis's. So that's a bit of a concern, but they'll simplify things for him this week. And my boy Areg Nazarian, another Armenian guy, Armenian Thunder, the running back, he can expect a large workload this week. And if he wants to prove himself to Sarkisian at USC that there should be an Armenian to Armenian scholarship coming his way, this is another week to do it. I mean, he kicked butt last week, and you can see him getting the ball a ton of times in this game. So I think they're going to rely on Areg to kind of lead the offense this week, take pressure off of Miles, and hit Carroll and Crawford when the situation's just right.
And the thing that really hurts with Martin gone, he was not just a quarterback who's back there dropping back and just hitting receivers. He, you know, with their spread type of attack, he's making runs upfield.
Yeah, that's what got him hurt.
So it's a really tough hit, but
he's also a mistake-free guy, right? He hadn't thrown an interception the whole year.
Thrown an interception.
But there's a lot of other weapons on that team.
Lucerna, guys, to talk about them real quick, isn't it amazing that Lucerna, in what's considered a down year, and what was considered a real up year for the Whittier area when you talk about El Rancho, La Mirada, La Habra doing its thing again, winning like its 8th Freeway League title. La Serna is the last Whittier area team. Well, excuse me, Montebella's still alive.
Yeah.
But of these big shot teams, La Serna is the last one alive. They're the last one in this division alive. They're the defending champions of the division. They're at home. They have a chance to send number 1 home. And if you tell me for 1 second, Freddie, a team that played Rancho Cucamonga this year, a team that played Los Osos this year, a team that played a good team from Colorado this year is going to be intimidated by this spot in St. Francis, there's no way in hell I'm believing it. These guys will come to play. They know what they do. It isn't flashy, but it is La Serna, and they're not going to be scared of St. Francis whatsoever.
Yeah.
They could give them a game in this spot.
Well, I don't think it's about being intimidated. This team over the last few years has played an extremely tough schedule. They've enjoyed playoff success. They've been to 3 straight finals, don't forget, and winning it last year. And I know they don't have Frankie football, but they've got tradition on their side. They've won championships. I don't know what the gap is. You know, when before the quarterback got hurt, I think there was a sizable margin, at least in my opinion, that I thought St. Francis would be able to handle this game. And I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, just kind of your size and your strength. And what I've always talked about when you like an Amat played at Charter Oak or something, it wasn't really about, you know, the star players or the star receivers. It was really about that depth in the line. It was those depth in the trenches. And that's something that I knew St. Francis had always had watching Jim Bonds over the years. I think that's why they were so strong in their league, why they played teams like JSerra so tough last year and Chaminade so tough, 2 teams that, you know, played for a CIF title in a tough division last year, one winning a championship. I just don't know how much losing their quarterback is going to affect them. I had St. Francis, you know, winning the championship in this division and going undefeated. It's extremely unfortunate that you lose your quarterback who's been this good for you all year. I mean, so it's an extremely hard game to pick with a backup quarterback. But I'm going to guess, you know, I still don't think La Serna is as great as they were last year. I know they get fired up and they seem to play good when their backs are against the wall, or they play good in games when you don't expect them to win.
Right.
And then they can lay an egg like they did against El Rancho, you know, earlier in the year. I'm going to go with St. Francis, an extremely close game.
Extremely close. Okay.
I really am. I think they're going to do enough to pull it out, but my thoughts on St. Francis winning the whole championship right now, I mean, those are on hold.
Okay, little Stevie R, you're going to be out there if I'm not mistaken, right, for this one?
I'll be out
You're
there.
going to get that good parking, I hope.
Well, I always try to get there a little early and get
Park in the end zone.
that good parking on the
Where do you
the
eat
street.
before the game, Steve? You get a little Douglas?
No, there's
Douglas
a hamburger.
Steve,
There's
just park in the end zone.
there's a hamburger joint called Norm's just down the street from the high
I've heard of that. Yeah.
and that's usually the place to go. They
Now,
call
do you
it.
eat in there, or do you take it in your car and sit
No,
in your
I
car?
take it in my car, and
Atta babe.
there's usually something.
Man after
There's
my
usually,
own
I'm
heart.
serious. There's usually a college football game on
Right.
or something.
Right.
That
a babe. So
yeah.
Stevie will be there at 2:30. Okay.
no, not
Kick
that
off
early.
at 7.
Okay.
Or 7:30.
But I've got St. Francis in this game. I just think even though they're minus their starting quarterback, I just think they just have too many weapons for La Serna to handle. And La Serna's defense has not been as good as it's been the last few years.
Wounded duck theory here. A team loses a stud player the following week. They all rally. Everyone plays better than they ever have. You got linemen that maybe win 80%, giving 100% now. You got skill guys who feel challenged by the coach to do something. I don't know where that takes you the week after, but at least the week after that injury, I'm saying the week after the week after, the week after that injury, it leads to good things usually 9 times out of 10. And that's going to be St. Francis this week. They're going to simplify things. And then when Miles Bryant drops back and hits Dylan Crawford on that 16-yard out, that Crawford turns upfield and it's a 70-yard touchdown. People will be like, hey, man, this Miles kid's not bad. And Kennedy Bryant's going to be up in the stand saying, see, I told you. Now, what's Monrovia doing? That's what's going to happen tonight or Friday night in this game. I got St. Francis.
Did he transfer to St. Francis because the Amat quarterback went over to Monrovia?
Well, the Amat quarterback was already there.
He was already there.
It was going to be a quarterback competition. It's fuzzy on this, but without getting into it, there were other reasons involved as to why he did. And the kid is a brainiac. Not saying that Monrovia isn't a good academic.
He's a senior, right?
No, he's a sophomore.
Oh, wow.
He's a brainiac. He's a really going to be a super athlete. There were some other things involved. You know, we're not going to get into all that. So I think Miles Bryant's going to have a big game in this thing, and I think he's good enough to take them all the way to the finals, where they'll probably see Cathedral, and then after that, all bets are off.
Yeah.
But I think St. Francis wins this week, and next week they win again, either if it's Crescenta Valley or Paramount, and then you're going to see what happens in the finals as they go for 14-0. That all bets are off if they play Cathedral again. I'll have to get back to you on that. But this week, Arik Nazarian, remember that name.
Yeah.
He's the leading rusher. He's had a fantastic season that's been covered up stats-wise. They're there. But you got guys like Dylan Crawford and John Carroll and Jeremiah Martin that have put up big numbers. Arik Nazarian's numbers are just as big as anybody else. Might be the top running back in the Pasadena area. He's going to have a big week this week. He'll carry that team past Lucerna, and there you have it. Okay, you want to get over to the
Mid-Valley Division.
Mid-Valley Division.
Can I say something really quick about the Mid-Valley Division?
Yes, sir.
Let's just skip 2 games. Rosemead at Sierra Canyon and Azusa at Paraclete.
Okay.
Those are both 40-0 blowouts. Let's just pencil Paraclete in.
Yeah.
Let's just pencil Sierra Canyon in. Rosemead.
I think
Azusa,
Rosemead's going to give an okay showing.
I think they're going to get
Okay.
blown out. Rosemead Azusa, it's been a great year. You've done really good to get to where you are. You've won your league championships. It ends on Friday.
How come you're not saying the same thing about Montebello?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you lump them in there? You think they can play with Northview?
Because I wanted to talk about North.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about Northview, man. 10-1.
Yeah.
And they play Montebello. This is a rematch of a game earlier this season in which I picked Montebello because nobody, even Stevie here, the big Northview fan, told me how good Northview is going to be. Northview waxed them then. I don't know why they're not going to wax them on Friday night again.
Well, they are going to wax them, and that's what I wanted to say. So we're going to have 3 blowouts on Friday night.
Yeah.
This was the easiest bracket in the world to pick, except for the last game that we're going to talk about. Northview's playing too well. You know, Montebello 24-17 over a decent La Puente team who's proved to be a little decent. I just think Northview's on a roll right now. Their defense is kind of unheralded. We haven't talked about it enough. I don't know if Aram's had a chance to see him this year, but they in this division they really get after you. And it's not so much about their freshman quarterback Stephen Comstock, although he manages the game well. They run the ball really well. In this division, it seems like with those linemen, Steve, no one's been able to slow those guys down. It just seems like they're physically better than everybody.
Yeah, Comstock got bruised up a little bit. I think he took a shot in the ribs. I saw him at the APU game on Saturday, and he said he was fine.
He's a wrestler. He's tough.
But their 2 backs and their line, they just dominated Brentwood, and you know, that's what their team is about. And really, since Marcel Perez became head coach, that's what Northview has kind of been about, just playing good defense and being physical with teams, and against a team like Montebello, which that's how they beat them in September.
Yeah,
and I don't see how that's
why nothing's going to change, because when you're just better physically and you're stronger, you have better athletes. There's not really a lot you can mess up. It's not like they're going to go there and be tricky with them, and Comstock's going to all of a sudden throw 25 passes and they're going to change it up.
Right.
They're going to run the ball down their throats. They're going to score. They may have some lows in the game, but they're going to beat them. They're going to beat them handily.
It's always hard to beat a team twice in a season, though, Fred.
Yeah.
And Montebello has a very good coaching staff.
It depends who you're playing.
I think you'll get a much better account from Montebello.
Yeah.
Not only that,
I think
they
that's
have
an argument
confidence.
you can make when Los Altos is playing Monrovia.
You're right.
It was a close
You're
game.
right.
I don't think that's an argument you can make when
I'm not sure
one
this
team
is the
owns the
blowout that you're thinking it's going to be. I think Montebello might bang with them for a while.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I picked Northview to advance, though.
So let's talk about the only game that matters in this division.
Pomona, San Dimas.
Pomona at San Dimas.
Two Valle Vista League
A
teams.
rematch of last year. Last year Pomona thought they had a really good chance against San Dimas in the Valley Vista League championship game. It was a Week 10 game. They were both undefeated in the league. And San Dimas.
Was that Week 10?
That was that was
Week
Week 10 game.
Wow.
San Dimas just waxed them. They ran them off the field. It wasn't close from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was kind of a lesson learned for Pomona. They've circled the opportunity to play San Dimas again. They've wanted them. I've had coaches hit me up on emails, on Twitter. I've had some guys, this is the game that we've wanted more than any other game. And you look at Pomona right now, everything they've gone through with their administration, having to forfeit 2 games, their coach, Aaron Jameson, who will not be with them this week. The Daily Bulletin ran a story today that alleged misconduct with a student over there, that he is on administrative leave. We'll watch and see how that sorts out. But I don't think it matters. I was talking to Coach Cernicle yesterday. At the end of the day, players play. These guys, I think, feel like, their backs are to the wall and they've got something to prove. They don't care if the administration's not behind them. They don't care if everybody's laughing at them. They don't care what people think about the Pomona.
No one's laughing at them.
No, not laughing, but I think they've got the biggest chip on their shoulders and they're good. That's what's scary. You got a chip on your shoulder and you're good. And I don't think this San Dimas team is going to be ready for what Pomona has on Friday night. I think at some point when you want someone bad enough and you're a pretty good team, there comes a time when you're just going to get them, and it's going to get San Dimas this Friday.
Yeah, it's not like Pomona has been winning with scheme. They've been winning with athletes who are just quicker than every team they've or most of the teams they've faced this year. And I think they're faster and quicker than San Dimas.
This is a week where you do need to win with scheme. That's where they run into trouble against San Dimas historically, is that in order to beat San Dimas, you do have to win with scheme. You do have to play an offense that you're not used to seeing very often in a season. You do have to play an offense where you're going to have assignments and follow those assignments in addition to following the ball. And like I've always said, teams like Pomona, teams like Monrovia, they are not the kinds of players on defense that enjoy stopping a wing T. These are the kinds of kids that want to rush the hell out of the quarterback, play coverage, intercept passes, and return them. They're not the kind of kids that want to stay home and wonder, did the fullback get the ball there? Is that the QB going around in with the ball? Did he just run a fly sweep? What just happened? That's where Pomona runs into trouble with this. They had a lot of that talent last year, and they got waxed off the field. Now, San Dimas isn't as talented this year, but you can't tell me right now that Zernico isn't sitting there saying, hey, I know these guys. I don't think they can stop my offense still. I'm going to throw wrinkle after wrinkle at them. They'll over-pursue. They'll do certain things. That's going to put San Dimas in this game.
My problem is I think San Dimas can score points on Pomona, and I think they will. I just think Pomona is going to outscore them. I've seen San Dimas a couple times this year. They couldn't stop, and I think Pomona probably has more athletes than both of those teams. I just think it's going to be a simple thing of, San Dimas has an offense that's difficult to defend, especially when your head coach isn't there, you're not used to it. As you said, Aram, are they going to stop Pomona? I think it comes down to Pomona that's going to be able to outscore. It's going to be a good game. I'm not predicting a blowout by any stretch. I think Pomona is going to outscore them in a thriller. We saw a couple games last week, 71-70, 64-62. I think this could be one of those 45-41 games. 48-45s. That's my prediction, but I think Pomona's going to.
I think you really touched on something, though, Fred. Going back to the Pomona players, kudos to them for putting up this kind of season when the administrators, the coaches, in large part, and the adults, basically, all around them have completely failed them this year. It's been fiasco after fiasco after fiasco. Forfeiting that win over Roosevelt, not making the trip to Mission Prep. Your coach goes down for an alleged misconduct with another student. These kids have, and I know those aren't things like, that could ruin a season in theory, but these kids have stuck with it. They've done a great job. They've been able to kind of ignore it, deflect it, let it all roll off, and here they are with a chance to punch their ticket to the semifinals. They've done an outstanding job, and those kids deserve a ton of credit.
And that's why you don't root for teams, but I'm rooting for their success because of what they've gone through, Aram. And if this team at the end of the year is holding up a CIF championship trophy. If they go through it all, I don't want to see those administrators in the background celebrating with them with their hands up like, we've been through with the team the whole year. You didn't want to travel with that team. You didn't want to make it happen when they had a big game early in the year. Don't show up at the CIF final, behind there for a photo op, ready to take pictures with the team when you haven't been behind them the whole year, when you haven't supported them the whole year.
Right. I agree with you, Freddie. Steve, you got a pick in this game. You know San Dimas well.
I'm going with Pomona, but like you guys said, I think it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. The thing that usually gives San Dimas and the wing T problem is when the defense is just more physical and just bigger than them, and that's not the case this week. But Pomona is going to be hard to stop for San Dimas, I think, and I have Pomona in a close game.
I'm reluctant here. I'm going to pick Pomona as well. I'm going to go with the flash and dash over the the steak and potatoes. But I don't know, man. This could be
the flash and dash over the steak and potatoes. I don't think I've heard that.
This could be a really stupid pick because they've shown no signs ever of being able to stop Zernico's offense. And he's the kind of guy that loves matchups like this where they're the underdog. And let me tell you something, that Pomona speed is nice. But if you're sitting there on defense for 6 minutes every quarter, how many opportunities are you going to get? This comes down to one thing: San Dimas cashing in its chances. They haven't always done that this year. They've moved the ball well between the 30s. If they cash in their chances on Friday night, they've got a good chance to beat this team. I think this is one of the better, most interesting games of the week. The game's at San Dimas. You know, we'll see what happens. I'm going to lean
That's what's sad about all of these games. There's so many that you want to attend, and you can only go to one.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's finish up real quick
Okay.
because we've taken up almost everyone's lunch hour.
Yes.
We wanted to wrap this up in 45 minutes. We've gone a little long. We have one game left in the Northwest Division, or 2 games, I should say. These are the 2 undefeated teams in that division. Number 1, Maranatha, 47-21 over Mission Prep last week. And Pasadena Poly with a 7-0 victory over Morro Bay. Poly's got Linfield Christian at home at South Pasadena High School on Friday night at 7. Maranatha is making the big road trip to Arrowhead Christian. I think it starts to really get tougher for these teams. Now I know that they've enjoyed a pretty good ride, but I think from this point on, these are going to be pretty tough games. I think that everyone, because these are only 2 local teams in the division, would love to see a small school Pasadena matchup of 2 13-0 teams in the championship. So I think for me, I can leave it right there. I mean, I'm going to go with Maranatha to beat Arrowhead Christian. I'm going to go with Poly to beat Linfield Christian. And we'll just see if it happens. They're obviously teams that we don't know a lot about that they're playing. We do a lot of scoreboard watching. But what I have noticed throughout the year is Pasadena Poly's gotten better during the year when you look at their scores. They've been doing what Rio Hondo Prep has traditionally done. And Maranatha has been impressive. They've gotten better each week against pretty good caliber teams. So I've got them both moving on.
I mean, I think of Maranatha, the Bogan factor is finally kind of has been slowly building, taking effect. I mean, he's got all the weapons that he needs as a coach. You know, Eli Snyder is one of the top quarterbacks in the Pasadena area. Caleb Devine is just a beast as a running back, especially in this division. Xavier Boone is a pretty good receiver. When they were, they started off slow last game where they gave, they went 3 and out, but from then on they were basically unstoppable for the rest of the game. And
but have they played on the road against a team that is probably every bit as good as them yet this year?
No, if they don't get it here, the scary game that it looks like for me.
What?
I don't know if they won the coin, but that Big Bear team, I've heard they're pretty darn good. They've got to get by this one.
I'm surprised that you would say a Big Bear team would be scarier than a 10-1 Arrowhead Christian team, and that game is on the road. This is going to be a very tough game for Maranatha.
That Cantwell Sacred Heart wasn't a terrible team either that they waxed 48-19. I mean, Cantwell was a decent team.
So I think this is going to be a very, very difficult game for Maranatha, and justifiably so. I mean, this is the kind of game we want to see them in against the better, more dangerous teams in the division. And as far as Pasadena Poly, it's hard to imagine they could get a tougher game than what they got last week against Morro Bay, but they're going to get just that. Linfield Christian is the team that won the league that Arrowhead Christian is in. Both Maranatha and Pasadena Poly are in for very, very good games this Friday. They're both playing Friday. I think these are coin flips, man. If neither of these teams advances or both do, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I guess like Freddie, just to see them kind of move on, I'll go with Poly and I'll go with Maranatha, and we'll see what they can do. This division's getting real interesting real fast. So that is our show. We will be back with another one on Friday night after the games, around 11-ish. We don't know if Fred will actually be here yet, as he's coming back from the Bishop Amat game against JSerra.
I have a cell phone.
We'll be able to get him on the phone and find out what happened there.
It's a long drive back from deep Orange County.
Stevie will be at Lucerna at Cal High for Lucerna St. Francis, and I'll be at the Charter Oak San Marino shootout at San Marino High. You really can't miss with wherever you go on Friday night, but the point is that you do go, get out to one of these games, enjoy it, support the kids.
And when you're at the games and you have your Twitter accounts, use the pound SGV football hashtag. That goes right onto our live chat.
Right.
One of the things that we like to do is share score after score after score. And you guys have helped all season. So when you're at these championship games, these quarterfinal games on Friday, tweet updates, and we'll retweet them. We'll keep it going, and everyone's going to be up to date on every game in our coverage area.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, everybody, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. Enjoy the replay of this show. We will see you on Friday night. Good luck to all the local teams.